It is now 6:02 p.m. on August 11th, 2026. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Sandwich Board of Appeals. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Board of Appeals is comprised of 5 regular members and 1 alternate member. The Board of Appeals can have up to 4 alternate members. Any decision of this board requires a 2/3 vote. 2/3 of 5 is 4. If only 4 members vote, the vote would have to be unanimous. If 5 members vote, 1 member could dissent. This meeting is live tonight and streamed on Sandwich Community Television's website and on local channel 9. The meeting is being recorded and will be available on the Sandwich Community Television website, www.sandwichtv.org, tomorrow. The board asks if anyone is recording the meeting this evening. Thank you, the Enterprise, right? Please notify me. Anyone else? No? Okay. So we'll get started. First order of business tonight on our agenda is the review and approval of our meeting minutes from the July 28th, 2026 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right. All in favor? Aye. All right. Couple of old business items here, and just to announce for anyone who may not be aware, application 2602 and 2615, which both pertain to 185 Service Road special permit and the corresponding variance for Grace Church of Cape Cod. Those applications are going to be continued and heard concurrently. There's been a request to continue that hearing, which is open and remains open, but as of right now, let me read your. There was a formal request to continue. Good afternoon, Julia. This confirms my request for a continuance for both the special permit application and the variance application for the September 8th meeting from Samuel, the representative for the applicant. With that being said, yes, I would ask for a motion to continue the public hearing for both of those applications to the September 8th.
For the variance, we need an extension of time also to make overarching the day that the applicant has agreed to.
So we need that from the applicant?
We just need that as part of the motion.
Okay.
So a motion to continue the hearing for applications 2602 and 2615 with a time extension for application 2615.
So second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next order of business this evening is application 2618, which is 22 Jarvis Street. Special permit for La Doro Italian Market for the purpose of permitting a minor retail sales service use. Again, this application is being requested for continuance, but a couple points of order. Board member Eric Van Buskirk did not attend the meeting on the 28th. But Eric, you were able to listen to the proceedings in the audio recording. Okay, so that will allow you to participate in the future hearing. There's another formal request. Bear with me. mixing up your order. Sorry, Maureen. I'll straighten it out after. From Mr. Wynot, good morning. I'm writing to request a continuance of the hearing regarding my application for 22 Jarvis Street, scheduled for August 11th to September 8th. I've submitted an application for a variance, and that is scheduled for the September 8th hearing. Thank you.
I will move the continuance. There's nothing to add.
Correct. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next order of business is application 2621 for 3 Shore Drive. Variance request for the purpose of relief from the side yard and building separation setback requirement. I'll have a few things to read into record, so bear with me. But the Sandwich Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on the application of Eduardo De Souza, applicant, and Jean Diego. Forgive me, I'm butchering that. My apologies. Property owner for a variance under sections 1321, 2600, and 2600E of the Sandwich Protective Zoning Bylaw for property located at 3 Shore Drive, Forestdale, Mass. Assessors Map 7, Parcel 152 for relief from the side yard and building separation setback requirement. The public hearing will be held on August 11th, 2026 at the Sandhill School Community Center, 16 Dewey Ave, Sandwich, Mass. At 6 p.m. Public record information can be viewed at the Planning and Development Office. With that, I'll ask for a motion to open public hearing for application 2621.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comment memo from Sam Jensen, town engineer, to the board. The engineering department has no comment on the subject application. This is our summary, right, Leanne? I'll read that.
Or you can.
It's here, I'll read it in. Okay, so from Ian Reed, Building Commissioner, to the Zoning Board. A variance application was received on July 17th, 2026 in relation to 3 Shore Drive, Map 7, Parcel 156 under sections 1321, 2600, and 2600E of the Town of Sandwich Protective Zoning Bylaws. The property is located in an R2 zoning district. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story garage on an existing lot that predates zoning. The proposed garage will be located 5 feet from the existing dwelling and 6.3 feet from the southerly side lot line. The subject property has 32 feet of frontage, as the lot does not have the 50 feet of frontage required under section 2550. Non-conforming lots of the Town of Sandwich Protective Zoning Bylaws, it is not eligible for the protections afforded by that section. Consequently, the property must comply with the current dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw. Under section 2600, intensity of use schedule, the required setbacks for the applicable zoning district are front yard 50 feet, side and rear yard 45 feet. Because the proposed garage is located 6.3 feet from the southerly side lot line, a variance of 38.7 feet from the required 45-foot side yard setback is requested. In addition, section 2600E of the Town of Sandwich Protective Zoning Bylaws states no building or any part thereof except steps shall be built within 12 feet of any other building. The proposed garage will be located 5 feet from the existing dwelling, resulting in a separation that is 7 feet less than the required 12-foot minimum. Accordingly, a variance of 7 feet from section 2600E is also requested. Based on the foregoing, the applicant is requesting the following relief: a variance of 38.7 feet from the required 45-foot side yard setback under section 2550, section 2600 intensity of use schedule, and a variance of 7 feet from section 2600E to permit a 5-foot separation between the proposed garage and the existing dwelling. Construction of the structure is required to comply with the Massachusetts State Building Code, specifically but not limited to fire separation requirements. This memo was submitted for the Zoning Board of Appeals consideration as part of the applicant's request for zoning relief. Heather Gallant, Director of Public Health, to the Board. The Health Department is in receipt of the request for comment for the variance for the above referenced address. The Health Department has the following comments. No bedrooms allowed in the garage due to the current septic system capacity. Please feel free to contact this office if you need any additional information. Jenna Silver, Department of Natural Resources, to the Board. The Conservation Commission has reviewed the request for variance 2621 Three Shore Drive, Sandwich, Mass. The Commission reviewed the applicant's project and issued an order of conditions effective 9/8/2025. Permit number SE 66-2056 in compliance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Sandwich Wetlands Bylaw. A copy of the order is attached to this memo. The Commission does not have any comments regarding the special permit request, other than the applicant must comply with the order of conditions. Please let me know if you have any further questions or require additional information. The public comment from Robin Lee, is this the entirety of this
Yeah, we will typically read the public.
going into the record? Yeah, I know that was circulated to the board as part of the packet.
So the
but yeah.
record is reddish.
Okay. Does anyone need me to read that for them? Okay,
Yeah, right.
we've all reviewed it. Okay. I believe that's everything. Public written correspondence. With that, is there anything to add before we open the matter to the applicant, Leanne?
I would just add that this is your first variance under the new variance criteria issued by the state. We have previously sent out a memo with the new criteria. So if you have any questions, happy to try my best to answer them as we kind of go into the unknown where 50 years of case law on variances has now been wiped clean and we're fresh and starting anew. So we're here to help as much as we can.
Getting used to the phrase practical difficulty.
Yes. Although self-created hardship, Mr. Neven has used for years.
Okay, thank you, Leanne. Ian, anything else? Anything further to add? Okay.
Thanks for everything that's going on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is the applicant here? Let's see. Okay, would you like to walk us through your request and present your application?
Both of us? Because I'm on there as the authorized agent as well.
Sure.
You can just put it on and see if I can get the table.
Yeah, if you could just please state your name for the record, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Peter Ryle. I'm from Canal Land Surveying, who did the plan for this.
I'm Eduardo Souza from New England Home Improvement. I'm the licensed contractor on the project.
So can we we can walk through, there's criteria for the variance.
Are you here to speak for the applicant to meet the criteria of the variance? Yeah, I think you guys are here to talk about the setbacks and such, but if you want to run through that criteria and explain how it meets that, you can start there.
Sure. So as it was mentioned in the overview of the lot, it predates zoning. The subdivision plan is in 1949. Past practice in the town of Sandwich has been that it would revert back to the first zoning in the town of Sandwich, which was May 9th, 1960, which would be 30 front, 20 rear, 10 side. And obviously with the site constraints here, that's impossible to meet the 10. So the original thought was that the frontage would get us down to the 10%, which obviously it's brought to our attention that it's not, because it's completely impossible to come from the Pimlico Pond side road. That's why that little panhandle was put on in 1949, because that's the flattest part of the lot. As for the separation variance that they're going for. That could be easily solved with just connecting the two structures. And then it would be one structure, then they would not need the variance for the two. We've already been through conservation, they've, like they said, they put out order conditions on it, so it's just a matter of, this is pretty much the only place it could fit if this was to be built.
For me, it's easy to understand the topography is an issue.
Very challenging lot.
Can you speak to the financial hardship that will be created by the lack of approval?
I cannot.
Well, someone needs to.
Okay.
How long has the owner owned the property?
Since 1999.
And in 1999, when you bought the property, you knew that you couldn't put this garage there.
I did not know that.
You say it's impossible to come from Pimlico Pond Road. Tell me why it's impossible to come from Pimlico Pond. What's the elevation at the house?
I think there's a guardrail there, isn't
Yeah,
there?
there's a guardrail.
There's a guardrail there?
Yeah. The drop off from the edge of pavement, 10 feet off the edge of the pavement is 20 feet lower. It's substantial,
So it drops and then it goes up?
yes.
How about a one-car garage? Would that solve the problem?
It is designed as a
Yeah,
one-car
it
garage.
should look like that with the drawings. It's only one. Yeah.
It's just a taller structure. There's no access to a second floor.
What are the dimensions of the garage?
1824.
18
wide, 24 deep.
wide. One car garage doesn't necessarily have to be 18 feet
Yeah.
wide.
I mean, you can get them down to 12. That's tight, but you could do 14.
We could narrow a little bit if needed.
And what about attaching it to the house?
I don't see an issue with that.
Mhm.
I don't see an issue with that.
So that you could create a greater side yard setback?
We connected it to the house and made it 14, that would make it 10.3. And if we reverted back to the first zoning in Sandwich, it would be 10 feet.
Yeah, well, you need two variants technically because the buildings are supposed to be 12 feet apart.
Well, that's what he was saying, you connect it with a roof.
So if you attached it to the house, you'd eliminate one of those
Correct.
variances. And if you reduce the size of the garage, you could create a greater side yard setback.
And if you went with a one-story structure, you could be 10 feet with a setback.
It is one story, there's no access to the second
It is-
floor.
it is.
So it'd be the single-story accessory dwelling or accessory structure, which would be 10 feet.
There is space above it, but I don't think it's habitable.
It's just, yeah,
So then the setback is 10 feet, is it not?
Just through the chair, it met the building code that it was a two-story. It can be finished as a two-story, so that's the requirement and was presented as a two-story in the application. And the current setbacks are 50, 45, 45 because they're into the new, because they don't get the 32 feet of frontage, they don't get the benefit of the section 2550. So it goes to current zoning. which
Could
is
you,
50,
could you
45.
explain why that is?
Because it would have to have required of a 50-foot frontage in order to get
It was subdivided in 1949,
It doesn't have
11
frontage
years
on-
before zoning.
Doesn't
was
it have frontage on
accepted.
Pimlico Pond Road?
It does.
What's that?
It has frontage on Pimlico Pond Road, does it not?
Correct.
So arguably, even though it's not the frontage you're using for access, you have more than 50 feet of frontage,
Oh,
technically.
100%. I'm not disagreeing with
It's
that.
just taken from the address, so 30 Shore Road. That's the-
But that isn't the frontage though, on Pimlico Pond Road.
Hmm?
That isn't the actual frontage of the lot, though. Pimlico Pond is not.
Right.
That's the side yard.
So if you reduce the roof pitch and prevented any development on the second floor, made a smaller garage, would be a one-story garage at that point, you'd have a 10-foot setback.
And how big would the variance be that they would need?
If you push it.
So you might shave 5 feet off of it,
Right, so it's still a huge variance.
but we
It
still,
wouldn't, because if not, if they shorten the roof to a single story, then it comes under Sandwich's bylaw for a single story accessory structure, which is 10 feet, and we'd be 10.3.
And you need the variance for the separation.
The separation, they're gonna connect them. So it would not
But if
be.
you connect them, it's not, it then goes to the setback of the dwelling unit,
Yes, yes.
not the accessory structure.
Yeah.
So then it's a 40 foot
Attached.
setback.
The variance you'd need would be the separation from the house, not the lot line.
Double-edged sword.
Which,
Beyond that, I really would like to discuss the hardship that will be imposed by denial of this variance, because that's probably the most difficult one to get by. In terms of what the issue here, what's the necessity of the garage is that would warrant the sizable variance.
I just have a quick question. The definition of lot frontage in the bylaw doesn't refer to a street address,
Doesn't hurt what?
to a street address.
Okay.
It just says that portion of a lot fronting upon a street measured continuously along the street sideline between side lot lines, or in the case of corner lots, between one side lot line and midpoint of the corner radius. So I'm just wondering, I mean, maybe it's the building code that requires you use the street address for determining what the frontage is?
No.
Historically, we've always done it that portion of the house that fronts onto the street of the legal address is their frontage. And applicants have been advised that if they wanted to change their legal street address to a side that affords more frontage, they can do that. And people have elected to go through that process. I think here, it was, when we spoke to Eduardo, it was challenging to do that because there was no access points for them up at Pimlico. So we recommended at that point that the variance would maybe be the only avenue for them. But historically,
It's been from the street address.
What if you're a corner lot?
Which way the house faces.
What you use as the street address?
Yeah, street address. So if, administration, you gotta make the frontage on one of them, so the frontage has always been the street address.
We've had this before, corner lots and figuring out why they chose one or the other.
But I'm just saying that the definition of lot frontage in the
No, I
bylaw
understand.
does not make any reference to a street address.
Traditionally, that's the way they pick one. One's the frontage, and again, it's usually the one facing the road, where the house faces the road.
And I think to Jim's point earlier, someone has to address the financial aspects. Why is there a financial issue, financial hardship? Because if we issued a variance, we didn't issue a variance, you couldn't build a garage. What's the financial hardship that we're looking for?
Have to ask the owner for that.
Well, if she's here, she can speak to it.
She is.
Please.
Would you be willing to just, come forward and state your name for the record for us, please? Thank you.
You can see.
My name is Jean Gadiaco. I'm the owner of 3 Shore Drive in Forestdale. So again, what is the thing I need to address?
One of the requirements for granting a variance is whether the benefits sought by the appellant or petitioner can be achieved by some other method feasible, which we've determined otherwise it probably cannot, but whether the strict enforcement would impose a financial hardship on the appellant or petitioner. In other words, if we deny this, what sort of financial hardship would you endure as a result?
Well, it's kind of hard to answer, but I'm just trying to make this my forever home. It's not the largest house. Garage would be useful, especially considering last winter. Financial hardship, other than, maybe needing to find another forever home, but I would like to make Sandwich my home. I could, think about it a little more for you and come up with instead of an off-the-cuff answer, if you'd like that.
Could the garage be located on the other side of the house?
There's a drop-off. There's a gully.
Right, I understand there's a drop-off, but
It would have to
the
get
question
filled.
is, if we're reducing the width of the garage to 10 or 12 feet, you may be able to, create a space that would allow you to locate it on the other side of the house, in which event you wouldn't need any variances. You don't have to come in from Pimlico Pond Road, but if you could access a garage and locate it on the other side of the house.
It would have to be, the land would have to be filled.
It'd be built on a hill.
It's a hill. It's a gully. It goes drop from the street, drop from my
I'm not
side
concerned
yard. It's
about the
actually
drop on
like
the street, but
It would have to be filled.
There's
You
only
can't just
2-foot
put-
contours that I see on here, 98, 96, 90. From the front of the house, it's, I don't know, 90, 98 feet. And to the back of the deck, it's 90 feet.
About 8 to 10 feet.
I'm just looking for alternatives, there's another way that it can be done.
I don't think there is. I think looking at the lot, I think we get past that there is no alternative. It just comes down to the necessity to it, which, again.
I would have to excavate that whole side. Believe me, it was actually where I was thinking of putting it, but the amount of work to the ground, just to prepare for the garage, would be astronomical.
Well, to have to locate it on the other side would be a far more expensive proposition, and it would, that might be a financial hardship.
Well, I think the financial hardship is putting it in the first place. Locating it is a whole other issue. So it's a necessity. I think what the bylaw reads is a necessity to having a garage, and how the financial impact would be by not having one.
Okay.
The home is very small. For somebody who wants to grow older into a home, it's ideal to have a space where she could put her car in. Winters here are tough. That is definitely something to really consider. If she doesn't have a whole lot of money, she set aside some money to build this garage, and she does need it.
I understand that from a practical matter, but we go by what the bylaw requests, and it's it's a large variance. It's not 3 feet. It's significant. And so we look for some pretty solid reasons to allow it. And I can understand if they want to add on living space because they want to bring someone to live with them. That's a necessity. I can understand that. But with a garage, it's a little different. It's a little bit of a luxury, if you will, having a garage. It's not a necessity necessarily. It's certainly nice to have one in New England. I won't deny that. But again, we just go by what the bylaw allows us to do. And so if you want to take more time to come up with a reasonable hardship scenario that we could take into our decision, we can give you more time to do that. But absent that, that's one of the hardest things to get past in various applications, at least in my experience. But they exist, people have hardships, and we try to grant them variances accordingly. But that, in this instance, you would need to display something that would give us a reason to acknowledge it.
Would appreciate that.
Excuse me?
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Were there other criteria?
There are.
Is it worth just, while we're open and discussing,
Certainly there
to
are.
speak to the other points?
The other ones seem more accessible, so I go past that.
And does this new version of the law, as far as practical
difficulty.
practical difficulty, how does that come into play in the?
But again, the considerations are as follows in judging this, is whether the practical difficulty relates to soil conditions, shape, topography. I think we can all agree that applies. Whether the strict enforcement, which we were discussing. The other one is whether the benefits sought by the appellant or petitioner can be achieved by some other method feasible for the appellant or petitioner to achieve, and I think we agree there is no alternative to that. And whether practical difficulty was self-created. And again, if we consider the practical difficulty the lot topography, then you didn't create that. But, again, that one's a little easier to get around. There's a little more wiggle room there, but I think the financial hardship is the most difficult one to substantiate.
I guess an argument we have a difference of opinion. I think an argument could be made that you could reasonably locate a garage on this lot if it weren't for the topography. And
I agree.
The topography adds a considerable expense to locate the garage in a conforming fashion, and that significant expense creates a hardship.
Yeah, but that's circular logic.
Variants are granted all the time for, additions here, additions here.
Yeah.
And it's just because you may want to have an extra bedroom because somebody's moving in, that's not a financial hardship.
Well, you
That's a
could
hardship.
argue that it's a financial hardship because people need a place to live. But what I'm saying is, your argument is, well, because they want a garage and they can't put it somewhere, it's a financial hardship to put it somewhere else. The action here is putting the garage. We start with that. In the necessity for a garage, in not having a garage, is the financial hardship, not being able to have a garage. It's not where you put it on the lot, it's having it.
Well, I guess we can agree to disagree on that.
Yes. Public comment?
Unless there's any other board discussion or questions? Okay. Is there any public comment? Sure. If you could please state your name for the record.
You could just.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Robin Lee. I live at One Shore Drive. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Robin Lee. I'm the owner of One Shore Drive, directly abutting the subject's property at Three Shore Drive. I'm here tonight to ask the board to deny the requested variance from Sandwich protected by law, section 1321, 2600 and 2600E. By putting, per the building commissioner, the property has no grandfathered status and must strictly follow current R2 rules requiring 45-foot side setback. The applicant is asking to slash the safety buffer just down to 6 feet. Under the state's new practical difficulty test, effective last month, its requirements are to weigh the applicant's minor convenience against the direct structural or public safety dangers to our neighborhood, and the detriments are overwhelming. First, the applicant completely fails the legal alternative feasibility test. Under Section 10 of the revised state law, the variance should be denied if the applicant can achieve their goal through another compliant method. The applicant states they need a luxury property storage. The goal can easily be achieved by installing a standard single-story storage shed that fully conforms to our district's 45-foot side lot setbacks. The application on file states no unique operational or housing need beyond constructing a standard accessory garage footprint. Because their basic objective is simply household or vehicle tool storage, the exact same benefit can easily be achieved by installing a standard utility storage shed that completely conforms to our district's mandatory 45-foot side lot setback. They do not need to slice our public safety buffers by 86% just to get a storage area. There is zero practical necessity to force an extreme 86% setback reduction right against our shared property line. Second, it creates a dangerous wind tunnel if it was a detached garage, okay, and catastrophic fire hazard. Our properties are very tightly mined, 1 and 3 and 5 are close together. The architectural drafting submitted by the owner's domestic partner, Aaron Roderick, omits an active basement wood-burning stovepipe chimney on north elevation sheet A8. While placing their primary fireplace chimney mirror 5 feet away from this proposed wooden 2-story garage, squeezing a massive structure of just 5 feet from the existing home creates a severe canyon effect wind tunnel. This draft compresses airflow, generates a vacuum, and pulls down hot creosote ambers from both chimneys straight into this vacuum between the two buildings in the narrow alleyway into the garage bay doors. That this vacuum again will violently draw these trapped sparks directly inside the building, introducing an extreme ignition risk right next to the vehicle fuel storage. This directly violates bylaw section 2600 and 2600E. Third, the site plan features a severe engineering defect and unverified lot lines. The certified engineer stamp on sheet A17 is strictly limited to the generic interior wood framing and roof rafters. The engineer did not sign off on sheet A1 or sheet A12. And there is no engineer stamp on the slope certification proving that this shifting sandy bank can support a concrete slab on a 30-foot cliff drop. In 2025, unpermitted tree clearing by the builder and resident, Aaron Roderick, has already destroyed a lateral root structure, causing active erosion and causing my boundary fence to lean heavily towards our lake. And no replacement plantings have taken place. Furthermore, the plans rely on basic builder's dwelling location lot plans. In 2011, I had my lot professionally staked by Cape May Islands Engineering. Their precision intermittent measurements conclusively proved an active driveway encroachment crossing onto my property and displaying my exact property lines. Fourth, the project is legally and logistically impossible. Construction machinery has zero physical access from their own frontage. They completely depend on traversing my property. Additionally, the owner, Gene Diatico, and the builder are under active legally binding do not trespass orders from the Sandwich Police Department. They're criminally banned from my land. They cannot physically build this garage without committing physical trespass. In conclusion, the Sandwich Board of Health has explicitly ruled that this structure cannot be used as a living space due to the septic restrictions. The project provides zero public housing benefit. It remains an extreme self-created preference for a large luxury storage that comprises a sharp bank and violates police restriction and introduces a severe fire risk for our neighborhood. I respectfully request that the board deny this application. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right.
From the engineering perspective, you've heard what has been presented by the abutter. Is it possible to build that garage without trespassing on her property?
100%. Without a question. An inaccuracy of the survey was a personal hit, so I would refrain to comment.
That's an up-to-date survey, right? That you
100%.
Yeah.
On-the-ground survey tied into multiple bounds, 3 on the property, 1 stone bound from 1949 that's been there forever, that's still there. No grounds to say that that's not a legit survey.
Right.
I can talk to Cape Islands, I've known them for 35 years.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. Do we want to close, or did you want?
If the applicant wants more time, it's up to the applicant, if otherwise we can close it.
Yeah, that would be ideal. Some more time.
More time, all right, so
Like to
continue.
continue? Okay. I think our next eligible would be.
25th
Okay,
of August.
20, does that
2 weeks?
provide an adequate amount of time? 25th of August? Okay.
I'll move to continue the application
26, 21.
26, 21 till August 25th, 26th.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Next agenda item is application 2623 for 2 Coast Guard Road appeal of decision of the building commissioner for the purpose of appealing the issuance of a building permit related to the creation of a parking area citing zoning violations. Public hearing notice. The Sandwich Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on the application of Eileen Darrell Davis, applicants for an appeal of decision of the building commissioner under North Carolina Law, Chapter 40A, Section 8, for property located at 2 Coast Guard Road, Sandwich, Mass., Assessors Map 93, Parcel 8, for the purpose of appealing the issuance of a building permit related to the creation of a parking area citing zoning violations. The public hearing will be held on August 11th, 2026 at the Sand Hill School Community Center, 16 Dewey Ave, Sandwich, Mass. At 6 p.m. The public record information can be viewed at the Planning and Development Office located on Route 6A, Sandwich, Mass. Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. With With that, I'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing for application 2623.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I want to announce that we do have our town council representation. Alex, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce it.
Whiteside, yeah, it's a tough one.
Thank you. Is available for comment and input as needed. I do have a couple of comment memos. I know, Ian, you've provided a comprehensive review. I think everyone's received it and read it, so I think that would be redundant to read it again, but noted and received. Memo from Jenna Silva, Department of Natural Resources, to the board. The Conservation Commission has reviewed the request for this appeal 2623 to Coast Guard Road, Sandwich, Mass. The commission staff reviewed the applicant's project and issued an administrative review permit effective 3/25/26. Permit number AP 26-16 in compliance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Sandwich Wetlands Bylaw. A copy of the permit is attached to this memo. The commission does not have any comments regarding the special permit request other than the applicant must comply with the administrative review permit. Please let me know if you have any further questions or require additional information. We did receive a public comment from Mr. David Chatelain. Chatelain is how we pronounce.
Request that it was read into the record, but that is up to you, Chair.
Will address to Leanne. Dear Leanne, thank you for your response and for updating the email distribution list to ensure this reaches the active town staff members. While I understand that 2 Coast Guard Road is a privately owned and operated parcel outside the direct jurisdiction of the planning board, the town of Sandwich maintains absolute jurisdiction over all public roads, traffic patterns, and municipal right-of-ways, specifically Town Neck Road, Coast Guard Road, and Gallup Road. Because I am unable to attend the upcoming public hearing on Tuesday, August 11th, I request that this email and my attached safety proposal be read into the meeting record and officially shared with the planning board. Furthermore, I strongly request that this proposal be forwarded directly to Police Chief Jason Keene and Fire Chief J.J. Burke for their review. Public safety leadership needs to evaluate how the town will control Town Neck Road gridlock, manage the influx of vehicle and pedestrian overflow, and stop dangerous traffic weaving through the residential side streets off Town Neck Road. The town's current public sidewalk infrastructure is entirely inadequate to absorb the increased pedestrian volume. The public safety hazard remains a municipal problem that will require active police and traffic management. Thank you for ensuring my concerns are formally entered into the record for the August 11th public hearing. I look forward to hearing how the town's infrastructure and public safety teams plan to manage these impending roadway conditions. Mr. Chatelain has specific recommendations, which again, I know this letter was shared with the board. Those will be in the file for record. Meet those. One other public comment. From James Bennigan. Again. Okay. I will. Same thing, Mr. Bennion, we did receive your letter. It has been circulated. It's been noted for the record. It is in the file. It's been reviewed by the board. So.
Email from Maureen Cable saying it's been included in the file, so it's been distributed.
It is, yes. Yep.
No need to read it.
Okay. With that is the last memo. Is there anything further we should consider at the end? Okay, Ian, anything to add?
Just a
Couple of things just to go through. The memo was pretty about the zoning criteria, but just to the 98 Town Neck operation's been in operation for about 5-6 years. It went through review for zoning, building, historic at that time, and is separate from the project at 2 Coast Guard. They would have met the requirements at the time. Coast Guard didn't trigger anything that would trigger anything at 98. It was a separate entity, separate project. It was reviewed for zoning, building, and historic. Zoning, in part of my interpretation and review, was that it was a parking area, an amenity, not a primary use, or there's no use in the table that deals with parking. I viewed it as a amenity, as, for example, playgrounds or trails aren't in the use table, but we allow them through the town. Even parking for trailheads and things like that. So that was the view I took with that. As regards, there is a section of the portion of the lot that is in flood zone. It's not in wetlands, no structures, and there was only minimal grading in that. Building code wise, it was reviewed for 521 CMR, and nothing. There was no other structures being built on the property in question, so it didn't, apart from 521 CMR, that was pretty much the review for that triggered there. Just a quick note on the historic review. There was no structures or anything that would trigger a review through historic when it was approved and the proposal approved. Since then, our inspector Steve Schwaner, building inspector Steve Schwaner, visited the site for final inspection on Monday, August 3rd. He noted that there was some changes from the approved plan. There was a observed a post containing solar lighting and a parking separation feature consisting of approximately 6x6 posts with a heavy rope, so a fence kind of structured separation. And the applicant has been notified that they have to go to historic for those items. And one other thing is that I have requested after the final building inspection an as-built verifying that the vegetation remains at 30% on the lot. So there's just a quick couple of items of note. And as I said, the parking in 2 Coast Guard Road was reviewed as a standalone project. No structures were proposed or approved, and the existing operation in 98 Town Act was already established and compliant, and the proposed project did not trigger reopening of those previous approvals.
Is this parking lot for public use?
It is a private agreement between the owners and Treehouse Brewery.
So it's not for public use, it's for specific to this business?
I believe that's the I don't know, I'm not privy to the agreement, but I believe that's what they're releasing it from for use parking for their purposes.
So is there going to be signage in place that it's parking specifically for that business?
I believe they're going to look to get signage in place, and then they'll have to go through, nothing has been presented yet, but they're going to go for historic when they present what they're looking for on signage.
Okay. You guys up?
Are you ready? Okay. Paul Revere for the appellant Irene Davis and her husband Daryl. First of all, I do want to thank the board because for years I've communicated with Mr. Whiteside and never saw him in person. I didn't even actually know who he was. You don't match your picture on the website as well as you should.
That's a little bit old, yeah.
Yes. In any event, he represents multiple communities. It's not me having problems with Sandwich. Regardless, this is an appeal under 48, Section 8, Section 15, and Bylaw Section 1320. It's a building permit appeal because the building permit got issued. If there wasn't a building permit, this would have been an enforcement request, but it's a building permit appeal. That's how it came to you. It involves 2 Coast Guard Road, which is in the Marine District. Okay, although there is some relationship, secretive, or I say that jokingly, as Mr. Reed said, he's not privy to the agreement, that is to be used for the Treehouse Brewing Company. The building permit was C26-0029 and authorized construction of the parking lot. I believe it was issued, what was it, July 9th, and this was a timely appeal within 30 days. Ms. Davis owns a property at 32 Town Neck Road, which technically she is an abutter to a butter. We believe that she's aggrieved by the operations of this parking lot to serve the treehouse. The treehouse is open till, I believe, 10 o'clock at night for a settlement agreement. But the point is, there is going to be a new use of this property that is going to extend into the evening hours. And as the planning, I didn't catch what what was his name, Chatelaine, of the planning department, has expressed the concern about traffic impacts in that area, and her being a neighbor nearly directly across from Coast Guard Road, I believe meets the standard of aggrievement in this situation. Now, I was sitting there saying to myself, it's a fundamental principle of zoning law that you have to have a principal use, and I felt that sounded a little redundant. So I'll say it's a fundamental tenet that one has to have an allowed use to do the use. As it says specifically, section 120, and I did help Ms. Davis write this, but I was on my way to a plane to Idaho to Hell's Canyon rafting, so my name doesn't appear on it because I did not even see the final draft. But 1220 of your code says no building permit shall be issued except in compliance with this bylaw. And section 220 says, quote, no lot shall be used except as set forth in the use regulation schedule. What is the use here? The use is a parking lot. Now, I heard Mr. Reed say this, and I brought a couple copies because I've got the use schedule, use regulations, and there's simply parking lot is not an allowed use, okay? And when I say that, you need an allowed use to have the use. The use is being used as a parking lot. If you go down the list of allowed uses, and I wrote them here, and you can look at them yourselves. If anybody would like a copy of the section of the bylaw, I can provide one if you don't have one. But what's allowed by right? And I'm sticking to by right. A few are special permit parking lots right there. Farm stand, aquaculture operations, brewing wine distillery, boat and watercraft sales wholesale, boat and watercraft storage building, childcare facility, commercial and charter fishing, commercial and recreational marine equipment storage, marina, medical and rehab facility, office-professional, research laboratory, restaurant, terminal ferry, water bus, seafood processing, facility, municipal uses, museum, philanthropic institute, religious uses, school, marina, social club. And then there's a few accessory uses, okay, which would be attached to something else, and there's a sort of implicit that's attached to something else. But the accessory uses are antique shop, accessory to a cultural institution. Think of the famous glass museum. My parents were on the board of it one time. Automatic teller, accessory to a rental use. Temporary construction office. Family, it's accessory to a single family home, occupation. Home occupation accessory to residence, private garage, boathouse, rental accessory, a restaurant accessory to commercial use, sale of products manufactured on site. Parking is nowhere as an allowed use in this district. It's a fundamental tenet of zoning that you can't just do anything with your property. I said to Ms. Davis, not waiving the attorney-client privilege, if a parking lot can just be opened up here, then I guess she can start parking cars at her property so people can walk down to the beach. Maybe she can get people to pay for the trailer storage from there, because it doesn't say parking is parking lot's an allowed use, but at the same time, if it you don't have to meet the allowed use table, then I guess you don't have to do it in the residential zone either. So, you know, you have to think of this item. The best way I think about it is, I go to the North End occasionally, and you can probably put two and two together for the reasons for it. But there are street level parking lots sitting right there. And what is the only use of the piece of property? It's a parking lot. There's a one that I used for years. I got a new favorite instead of that one. So we have a problem here completely. That there is no by right use to simply put up, as Joni Mitchell would say, put up a parking lot. Okay? That's what was done here. That's one problem. The second problem is section 4340. Quote, no building permit shall be issued for construction where, this is important, like a nice bold underneath it, land to be excavated or filled in conjunction with such construction is below the base flood elevation unless granted a special permit or exception by the Board of Appeals. Now, I have the plans here, and I hate to say, I didn't have someone to send these to, but may I approach here? And Mr. Bryce, you need a copy? I think you know where the flood. I know, I'm sorry, Mr. Reed. I'm so used to dealing with Mr. Brides. I thought I had 3 copies. Yeah, I do. Yeah, do you need a copy? You know, I didn't think so. But, Mr. Chairman, there's a copy of that there. May I distribute another one to the other end of the board? Sure. Okay, just, thank you. If you see here, this is from page 2 of the site plan. And that yellow line, it's kind of entertaining the way it goes. It starts at Town Neck Road and squiggles a lot, but as you can see, it crosses the northwesterly side of the parking lot. That yellow line is designated on the plans as the border between the flood zone AE on the right side of the plan and flood zone X. Flood zone X does not require a special permit at all. Flood zone AE would require a special permit under your bylaw. And as I said, and it's kind of interesting, I did deal with one of these recently that went to litigation in the town of Sandwich where it was approved. But one of the questions when I first looked at this was, my client had a building in the flood zone, but here the actual bylaw says land to be excavated or filled. And as you can see, there are lots of drainage, excavation changes. I counted somewhere between 16 to 18 of the parking spaces are in an area that's in the floodplain. There's no question that there is excavation and fill and actions going on within the floodplain. And by the express terms of section 4340, a special permit was required for this, even if you concluded that this was an allowed use, which I don't think you can reach that conclusion to begin with. The next thing that is kind of interesting here, and it's a sidelight, and I bring it up because it will come up, because there hasn't been some sort of issue that this is an allowed accessory use. And as I say, I read the list of accessory uses, but your bylaw has a specific provision, section 3110, which you have a parking overlay district for everywhere. Okay, and it says, provides how many parking spaces you have to have for seats in your restaurant, etc. And it has one little requirement, which I thought we were going to hear a lot about tonight, and that is when you're not on the same property. You can have parking that's not on the same property if, but only if, it's within 300 feet. I have a little plan here if you want to see it, but basically, if this is parking for the treehouse, I drove it last night because I had to be in the area for other reasons. or at least near the canal. It's about 4/10 of a mile apart. There's not a great measurement on the plan, but it has the frontage of all the adjacent properties. And there's, somewhere about 30 properties that are 50 feet wide on the side. If there's any dispute that it's more than 300 feet, I'd gladly share this with you, but I think it's fairly clear that this is more than 300 feet away. So when I look at what's going on here, this is an attempt to solve a parking problem at the treehouse, okay? And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that there isn't a parking problem at the treehouse. I've heard there is. There's a town lot next door to it. But it's not completely unself-imposed. And I think one of the things that you have to know about some of the history here, and in fact, I tried to get some of this history, but my client was doing most of the requests for the town and they were coming fairly quickly. But in 2021, the treehouse was approved, and I have a couple of photos here. And again, I asked the chairman if I may approach and share these photos, and I'll share them with you first. But photos are people sitting outside. Yeah, may I share this? Sure. Okay, just asking. The treehouse built a beer garden on a lot of their paved area and created some of their own, I heard this word before tonight, self-imposed hardship in this matter. They're having parking issues. Horizons, I'm old enough to have been here under that name when I was in my 20s. Had a restaurant there for years. There's always been a tight parking issue. The treehouse bought a place with a tight parking issue. I'm not saying it's not a problem that needs to be resolved. What I'm saying, this method of resolving it fails to comply with zoning, and as Mr. Chatelain pointed out, he's got problems in terms of public safety issues. And we're also learning, as one of the first things I said to Ms. Davis was Old Kings Highway. There is no way Old Kings Highway is going to say you can put up a parking lot anywhere along 6A without our approval, without in compliance with zoning. This, because, and it's kind of interesting, there's a little interpretation to it as to whether, was there a structure, a sign, as I said to Ms. Davis, well, they do have handicap parking signs, but I don't think Old Kings Highway can do much about that. They're standard requirements, but there are all sorts of things that have been constructed on this property. Ms. Davis was saying to me that there's multiple lighting for each of the spaces. So that's kind of my conclusion of my presentation, except Ms. Davis had some issues she wanted to read on her own.
Am I allowed to read? Okay, thank you. So I want to begin by stating that this 5-year parking problem that we're discussing tonight, as Dr. Paul has said, and as Mr. Attorney Revere, call Paul, it's a direct result of Treehouse changing the use. And I know you mentioned in your response that, there's no change of use, but they changed the use of their parking lot for a beer garden. And by doing this, they made their problem our problem. And, if you go back to the very beginning, they were allowed to convert their parking lot without any kind of parking plan that I know of, which is why we have this big parking problem. And they were able to proceed without any kind of traffic study in a very congested area. And I think if you talk to anyone in the town hall, they know they've gotten continuous complaints about the traffic, the fact that that they have the beer distribution. So, Freeman Ave is halfway blocked because people can't get by. It's been a huge problem. They were able to do that without a traffic study. That's the beginning. So now we go fast forward, and they're issued a building permit to build a 150-car parking lot, partially in a floodplain, and abutting a wetland. And then they did it with an administrative review. And an administrative review is really for minor issues. And I would argue that a 150-car parking lot is not a minor issue. And they did it because, I believe they did it because it doesn't trigger any kind of public hearing. It doesn't trigger any, but I mean, I had no idea this was happening. And I think when you put a 150-car parking lot, any of you have one across the street from your house with lighting and with all of the traffic issues, you would probably want to know about it. There were issues with the, they haven't really done any kind of traffic study, and I know that they're not required to do a traffic study. And this is a very bad intersection, right, at Coast Guard Road. That's where the parking lot is. It's a narrow road, right, and it's congested, and it's also across the street from where the oil trucks come in and out daily and continuously because they have to fill their tanks, and that's right directly across the street. And I really think it really deserves a traffic study. They were issued a permit despite violating these bylaws that clearly state any remote parking has to be within 300 feet, and that there's a reason for that. There have been studies that show that when it's at over 300 feet, people don't use it as much, right? That there's a real reason why that's in your bylaws. And there is a change of use. I know that this is what the response is. There's no new building or change of use. There was a change of use. They changed the use of their parking lot that they had. They were issued it despite it being in a marine zone where he listed all of the uses of marine zone, but this is not related at all. It says in your bylaws that it needs to be related to marine. So if it's a parking lot that's related to, a visitor center, that's one thing. But it's a parking lot that's related to a business in a BL1 district, right? And it's in a marine district. It's a parking lot for a brewery that's not marine related and not even in the district. And it's not, as Attorney Revere said, it's not an approved use. But what's all really, to me, truly bothersome is how quickly this was done without any public hearings at all. They submitted a plan without any structures, and they're going to put structures in. There are light poles for I've seen them at night. There's solar lights. There's all these lights now in this parking area. They did it without any structures, though, because that doesn't trigger any kind of any public hearing. And that's really bothersome as a member of the community, right? They're going to have to put signs in. You just mentioned that before. They have to put a sign in. They're going to have to put gates up. They're probably going to have a booth because someone's going to have to stand there in the heat, right? And then now that they have it 90% completed, they're going to say, well, we can't undo it now. And then they'll do the public hearing. And I believe it should have been submitted with everything that they were going to need, right? We all know that's going to happen. This permit was attained on July 9th, July 10th. They started it. They did it very quickly. They worked into the night, and they violated noise ordinances. And I had to end up calling the police because we're right there. We can hear the beep, 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 and all of the construction. They wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. So the solution to me to Treehouse's parking problem is not to violate bylaws or violate zoning laws, but it is to get them to use their own parking that they had and to use that parking that came along with the building that they very knowingly purchased. Thank you.
To conclude on behalf of my client, there is a famous case in 40B law, and it involves a client of mine, although he wasn't in the case, and his name is Stu Bornstein, and the case is called Stewborn, although I met an attorney on the North Shore who said, it's the stubborn case. And I was like, oh yeah. But it said that you could actually deny a 40B, and I think you as members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, on the basis that you were preserving the use of land in a marine district for marine uses. And while this is not exactly the same thing as a 40B, it's the same problem here. The town meeting created the marine district and said, this is what you can do in it. And right now, what's trying to be done in this district is something that is not an allowed or accessory use and is taking up the potential use of that land for the uses the town meeting approved, a la the Stewborn case. Thank you very much.
because I just want to say one more thing. I will never understand to this day why that was approved to use the beer garden, use their parking as a beer garden. I'll never understand it. I don't know why that was ever approved, because that meant they had no parking. And we are now 5 years later with lots and lots of complaints and lots of problems now, to me, violating laws and bylaws, because they basically changed their own parking to a beer garden. So I just think we should have done that differently from the beginning, and now we're here. Thank you.
Thanks, Harry.
So Leanne, we've considered parking an accessory to commercial uses or business uses. So what do we consider it as a sole use? As I said, we don't have a specific use for it. So how do we build a parking lot?
So we treated it as a site amenity, similar to, in our use table, we don't reference parking in any district as a principal use or as an accessory use. We have the parking overlay, which in this case, the interpretation was that it did not trigger those requirements. We treated it as a site amenity that Jarrah Americas, who owns multiple acres of contiguous land, they were the applicant for the building permit in order to create the parking lot. They obviously have a lease agreement for it, but the use of the parking lot was a site amenity similar to a playground use or trails through conservation land. Like, none of those are principal uses or accessory uses in our bylaw. We saw them as site features. And just in relation to the structures that did appear in the lighting, that was not approved, and the final building inspection was failed due to these posts, these ropes, the lighting, and they cannot open their parking lot until they go to the Historic District Committee and get that property permitted. They were not on the site plans that were approved as part of the building permit, just to clarify that point. So
it's a site amenity connected to what exactly? What is it an amenity to specifically?
Specifically to Jarrah, but because a lease agreement could be at any point, we don't have the lease agreement, but it at any point could be revoked. So when we had a site plan review at the offset with Treehouse, we stated to them, this parking cannot be used for any additional compliance for your building. You will not get an increase in occupancy. If we are not treating it as an accessory use, you will not reap any benefits of having additional parking. And then just related to the parking that was turned into a beer garden, I believe that was around 4 years ago. And as a result of that, their occupancy was reduced related to the parking spots that they had taken away.
So as you said, it's a site amenity, but it's rather ambiguous as to who benefits by the amenity. That is up to whoever owns the site.
Correct.
And they can grant it to whomever pays them, in this case, the Treehouse. But again, they can't really claim it as parking because they're more than 300 feet away.
Yeah, because it wouldn't qualify for any of the accessory uses, so they can't benefit from any of the additional compliance that they would receive from additional parking. The town also did not require them to create any additional parking in order to service their building. And through conversation with them, we asked the questions of, is this going to be staffed? Is this open to the public? Is this a commercial venture, or is it paid parking? You know, all the things that would require site disturbance to see, would we be able to trigger a traffic study to come before the board? A DRI, I looked into see if we could do a development of regional impact, if it triggered thresholds due to the clearing of the lot. And for each step, it just seems like there was no trigger in order to move it forward to a public hearing and a board.
So the site owner could allow anyone to park there that they choose, whoever would pay them. But how do we get past the fact that, okay, you're calling it an amenity, but it's a specific parking use, and it's a commercial parking use because they're charging people to use it. So how do we get past that as an allowed use?
They stated to us that they were not charging anyone to use it.
So
well, I mean, Jarrah, through the lease, I'm not sure if it's being, I don't know what that agreement is.
So they're just doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
What they stated to us was that there was no commercial. I mean,
you take them at their word at that. Okay.
And they can ask for a copy of the lease.
Okay. some questions.
So the 300-foot parking requirement says such parking shall be either on the same premises as the activity it services or within 300 feet on a separate parcel. So how does that get negated?
Because the following sentence says, I don't have my law in front of me, it
Which-
talks about, if you just continue reading.
It's a chicken and egg. It's not required. It's a convenience. I mean, they could tell their customers to park wherever they want if they wanted to. It's up to them. I think as Leanne explained, if the parking is a requirement, then it has to be within 300 feet.
It's not a requirement.
Yes, it's a convenience to their customer.
Just through the chair, when I reviewed it, it was 98, Town Act had met that requirement. So
Correct, yeah, they have adequate parking, and
Yeah,
this is,
and they said no new construction, no additions to new ones, and no change of use. This is not connected to 98, and I think the memo stated that as well.
So this whole treehouse thing, I mean, we don't even know if they're renting the treehouse. It's all speculation, right? And there's no lease agreement.
They came before us for a site plan review with their intention that they were trying to work out a lease agreement with the property owner.
Which would be hearsay at this point for them, because we don't know that for a fact.
Well, the building permit was signed off upon, and then the historic, it's Treehouse is the applicant. So that's the little difference. So for the building permit, the owner, Jera, signed off. And then the contractor was an independent contractor, so Treehouse was technically not linked to it at that point. However, the historic permitting that has occurred since we've had the violation of the structures appearing without approval, that is, the applicant for that is Treehouse Brewing Company, and and Jera is the owner and has signed that.
Just on the, sorry to the chair, just on the structures, no matter what permit I receive, I can only go by what's presented. The what ifs and the ands and buts, they're just through the Massachusetts Building Code, I just couldn't. Anyone can build a house and renovate it 6 months later or do something different. And then obviously the final inspection was failed, and then we did send it to.
So at which point they're going through historic?
Yeah, and that was through the building department and the inspections that they were made to go for the historic.
Make a comment on the lease?
Well, we'll open to the public. We'll finish our board discussion, then that's certainly, please, yeah.
Could it be permitted as an other retail business or service with a special permit?
parking being another retail service or business?
Being a service connected with the use of Treehouse Brewery. As a principal use.
Outside of the 300 feet though, I mean.
But again,
It doesn't matter.
it's not a requirement. It's only, the 300 feet only applies if they need the spaces to meet a requirement. They need the spaces.
Kind of like the church.
Yeah.
They need spaces
Yeah.
to qualify. They don't need the spaces to qualify.
So they can tell their customers to park anywhere they want.
Sure.
They could rent a lot from the power plant that's already there.
Oh, but yeah, if someone wants to walk that far, that's their prerogative. I hear you. The only thing, the biggest one for me, and maybe Leanne or Ian, I'm not sure, but the one that really I'm scratching my head on was the fill situation, that no fill would be placed on any portion, on any lot, any portion of which is below flood elevation.
They did not propose any fill.
I don't think they filled it, they just cleared.
They filled. They filled.
Yeah.
We watched them fill.
It looks modified. That's a, like, that one's a tough one for me. I'm not sure.
Did they fill, or did they just move the dirt, the earth around that was already on site?
Well, they brought
brought
trucks
fill
and
in.
trucks and trucks and trucks.
Just through the applicant, please. Yeah.
Okay, so they brought one day, it was probably 2 or 3 days, it was continuous trucks of dirt. They brought dirt in.
It's, you know, if you look at the surface, and I thought maybe some members might have stopped by, but, and I did not bring photos. Has a sort of now bluestone put on top of it. It's not some sort of grass parking lot. is a, solid type of parkable surface. I mean, they had to do it for the handicap spaces. They had to put in cement for them so that.
They would have the ability to fill if we were outside the flood zone. A portion of the property is outside that flood zone, correct?
Right.
So they could bring fill in. They may not be able to build all 150 spaces using that fill because part of it is within the flood zone, but they could technically fill on that site.
Can they? It says no fill may be placed on any lot, any portion of which is at or below the base flood elevation.
It's only a small portion of the lot.
It says, it speaks to the entire lot, right?
No fill may be placed on any lot, any portion of which. Right?
Yeah.
So
It
that's,
speaks to the entire lot, if a portion of which is in that zone.
Right.
That's the way
But
it
not the
sounds.
entire lot is not under the flood.
No, we understand that part, just the way it reads.
because a portion of it is, therefore, no fill can be placed on any part of the lot without a special permit, right?
Or not how it was meant, but
But that's
kinda
how it reads.
sounds, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you would want that, only, it didn't say you can't do it, just that you need a special permit.
Right.
So that the area is clearly defined where to be working.
I'm assuming, I don't know what was in the actual permit application, would they have completed an existing condition survey as in existing and proposed new, I'm guessing?
Did they present a before and after topographical for the lot?
I'd have to review with our accountant. There was no construction in that flood zone area, it was just grading and, so that was it.
Was my question. Anything else for the board? Before we open to the public?
Can I ask one more question?
Certainly.
I don't understand the not required parking spots because they have only a few spots around their building. And I don't know what the occupancy is. Is that enough to say? I mean, don't you have to have so many spots to support your? So what is supporting their occupancy?
You do, and I believe if
I could answer that.
Yeah.
So,
we went through.
Back in the day, there was been a restaurant there forever,
Sure.
but it's not been, they were never very popular restaurants, so they didn't need a lot of parking. Some of it flowed into the town lot, and that was pretty much it. They were given an occupancy of, I believe, about 250 people way back. Because they, all of a sudden, Treehouse was very successful and they were putting well over 250 people in there, we addressed the parking issue. And we told them we were going to cut their occupancy back. I was the building commissioner at the time.
Yeah.
We cut the occupancy back to 90. Town council advised us against doing that. They said originally they were given 290. That's what they should get, 290. So that's why we had to put it back up to 290, even though they didn't meet the parking requirements.
So, okay, go ahead.
In point of clarity, I did not bring a large plan. I have the actual plan on my computer here. And I would show it to Mr. Reed first, so he can see what I'm talking about. But if you look right here, is elevation 16. Okay. 16 to the elevation is currently 13. Over here, we're in the floodplain. You can see lines of 15. To be in the floodplain, you gotta be below 14. So there's fill.
Yeah, I'd have to review.
I'm just showing you.
Me too.
What I was showing, and Mr. Chairman, you first.
Sure.
What I was showing was in this area here. This is the floodplain comes along right here. You see the 15. The floodplain is 14, so there's clearly fill that's going on the floodplain. Okay, I didn't think this. I thought this was a fairly obvious issue. And I can share this with the rest of you, but I want.
Is that where the drainage is right outlined?
Yeah, it's in the drainage. Yeah. But there's also up in here, you'll see a 13 is line, finished elevation of 16. You finish it. Sure. Yes, okay. I just wanted to ask you first, you
Yes.
you get to play gatekeeper.
Please do.
So what I was showing you is you'll see a 15 here, which is clearly across inside the flood zone area, which is AE 14, so it's below 14 here. And also up here, you'll see a line that says 16 and an elevation of 13. So there's clearly fill that's coming. See, there's the floodplain line in the floodplain. It was part of the process. The last one. 15 here, floodplain.
What's the flood elevation?
14. I can share it down. 14 is the elevation. And it comes along here, and you'll see there's the 13 on the elevation, there's 16 line from the finished elevation. So there's clearly flood in this place.
I hadn't finished my question with you. So you were saying that you had to bring it up to 290?
On the advice of town council, we changed.
Understood. So I understand that it's supposed to be 3 people in a car for each, like for each car, it's 3 people.
Current zoning, I believe, yeah.
Right, so even at 290, when you take that times 3, they didn't have that.
But I can't speak to what was going on 25 years ago when they got
Yeah.
290.
But isn't it even today, like if they have 300 people in their building, then it seems to me that they would need 100 spots.
They would.
And so it seems like this parking lot is a necessity, not an accessory.
They would need 100 spots, as you say, yes. But because they were given occupancy of 290 years ago, they can still have that occupancy, even though they don't have the parking spaces. And they're not required to provide the parking spaces now. If they use this parking lot, it's an added benefit to them, but it's not a requirement for them.
Was it protected as a pre-existing non-conforming situation? And whatever they had for parking when it was the Horizons was what they were allowed to continue to do. If they increased capacity, then they probably would have had to increase parking. But as a pre-protected use.
Right. But our principal points is basically, and has been said, JRS made this a parking lot. And its principal use is a parking lot. It apparently is for rental. It kind of tells you what it's tied to. And I've also pointed out this fill issue and needing the special permit, which would require review. But I think we need to hear from the public, so.
Does the board have any other questions before we open? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You stay with me.
Would anyone from the public like to offer comment?
Yes.
If you could just step forward, please, and state your name for us for the record.
You can grab a chair if you want to sit down.
One moment. Making some notes when people were talking. My name is Brian Fay. I am a licensed attorney in New York and in Massachusetts. And my wife and I are the owners of 34 Town Neck Road, which is directly across the entrance to Coast Guard Road. Much of what I had intended to say has already been thoroughly covered by people to my left, so I won't bother repeating that. But I do want to make 2 points. One is there's been a lot of discussion about the bylaw which requires Section 3110 requires off-site parking to be located within 300 feet of the business it serves, and this proposed law obviously exceeds the 300-foot requirement. I did have a chance to review the response that was part of the materials that was put together by the building commissioner. He clearly says that section of the bylaws does not apply because the off-street parking demand was not caused by new construction, additions to old ones, or a change of use. And actually, it was all 3 of those things. The demand for off-street parking was caused by a change of use when Treehouse converted the parking spaces behind the building into a beer garden. This was discussed at meetings that the neighbors had with Treehouse way back in 2021, which Irene was a part of and I was a part of and many of the neighbors were a part of.
In addition to that, when they did convert those spaces to a beer garden, there was renovation of the building. So it's not actually true that it wasn't, that section does not apply, because clearly there was a change of use. It was done voluntarily by Treehouse. They had adequate parking, but they chose to convert that into a beer garden. When we met with them back in 2021, I believe, when we started the meetings, when they tried to put another parking lot, actually on the other side of Coast Guard Road, they told us that they needed 50 parking spaces. 50 parking spaces is what they were after. Well, they could have put 50 parking spaces in the back of the building. Not to do that. The second thing I wanted to point out is that there was some discussion of whether there was going to be a charge for people to use the parking lot if the parking lot actually opens. And I wanted to point out that on July 31st, there was an article in the Sandwich Enterprise, and it quoted people from Treehouse in the article. The headline says 150 space parking lot to serve Treehouse, and in the article, it clearly states that that property was to be leased to Treehouse, and that there would be a charge of $20 for people to use the parking lot. So I know that had come up, so I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Another public comment? Yes, sir.
It's a short public comment. Michael Herbert, 30 Town Neck Road.
All right.
The town gave us documents, and one of the documents is called BC Parking Lot Lease Reduction, and it is signed by Canal Generating, by the plant manager, and also by Sarah Maggie Warren from Chief Growth Officer from Treehouse. So you should have this, since you guys gave it to us. You both should be able to reference that.
I personally didn't give it to you, so I haven't
The
seen
town
that
gave it to
document.
us.
Okay.
Who specifically do you know? Who specifically do you know?
Who gave us the documents they released to us based on your?
I did make the initial request for documents to the town, and I believe that was part of the documents that were supplied to us, that I again forwarded to the rest of the people that were involved in this and to Mr. Revere.
People that rent properties, Merchant Square, we don't see the lease. It wouldn't be part of the review of the. It's a private agreement between two parties. I deal with zoning, building and code enforcement, historic, not the lease agreement.
So that would come to you if it was going to go to anybody, surely.
I'm sure probably if it was a records request, it probably went through the town clerk. So, I mean, he may have something that the town manager's office has or select board has that doesn't always come into land use.
Any other public comment for tonight? Please.
Hi.
Good evening.
My name's Kristen Fay. Ryan's my husband, 34 Town Neck Road. And I've been listening, and I think that we've had a lot of really good points. I just wanted to mention that Jairus has had that property for how long? Forever. They suddenly now decided they wanted a parking lot. They suddenly now decided they wanted a parking lot. And coincidentally, Treehouse just was looking for a parking lot. So I think to say that it's Jairus that put in the application, Jairus that wanted the permit, and then Treehouse decided to lease it is disingenuous. And I think that I'm all for business in Sandwich and business on Town Neck. A good business in that building is great. It can be great, but Treehouse does have a history of doing things that are, the back way, right? So, and I think that this is a perfect example of it. They wanted a parking lot. They were using the overflow parking lot. They have a shuttle service. That's what they said they were going to do. And suddenly now they don't want to do that anymore. for some reason, whatever the reason, they wanted it closer. So they contacted Jairus, made this agreement with Jairus. Jairus goes ahead, gets the building permit for them. So nobody's any more well aware of what's going on because it's not Treehouse requesting it. Jairus does it, Treehouse leases it, and now suddenly they have 150 spot parking lot, 150 spots. That's a lot. And no traffic study, nothing like that. So I don't think without Treehouse ever wanting a parking lot, that Jairus would ever have changed that land. We had beautiful green land across from our house. Both, one is Global, one is Jairus. And they were corporations, there's wetlands on Jairus' side. The likelihood of that property ever being developed was very, very small. And for people who wanted to be in Sandwich, specifically in the Town Neck neighborhood, where our family has been for years and years, knowing that across the road from us was always going to be green, the likelihood was it would always be green, was fantastic. You don't have a lot of green space in Town Neck. So that was one of the things that we really liked. And now the traffic that we normally have is going to be exponentially worse. Exponentially worse. It's going to be bottlenecked, and I think that you're going to have more traffic problems because people are going to look to go to the side streets. They're going to look to go down Dillingham to avoid the Town Neck Coast Guard Road intersection. And those are real problems, and we already have problems with people from Treehouse parking along the side roads. You know, it's hard for us to go down to the beach because the roads are narrow. You're trying to squeeze through because there's no parking. And part of that is their own making. They put the beer garden in. They also have the opportunity, if they wanted to, if they really wanted to do parking, they could have leased the parking space in the Stop and Shop Plaza where Bobby Burns used to be. Huge parking lot, not used. They already have the shuttle service, would have alleviated the traffic issues that we have. And that would have been a service for Town Neck, for Treehouse, and it would have been perfectly acceptable. They had even suggested that they might do something like that. So why they stopped suddenly to use the overflow lot and bring it closer, it's a minute drive. It's not because it's, you know, more convenient, they get there faster. And what are we gonna do when there's people that come back from Treehouse, go to the parking lot, sit in their car, crack open the beer, have one last one for the road, toss the can in the parking lot, and now they're driving drunk. So, I mean, those are real concerns. And I know, I think Treehouse was a little underhanded in going about getting this parking lot because they knew that people in the community have concerns and they don't want to hear our concerns.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
I'd like to make one more comment, please. Just to follow up here. We heard that from the newspaper article, Treehouse is going to charge you $20. No one's going to go in that parking lot, but if they're charging $20, they're going to go back to the roads. And that's a lot of money. So just something else to think about as well.
Is there any further?
I would say one more thing. If you go down to the, I'm sorry. If you go to Treehouse, and you can go at any time of day when people are using the beach, and Treehouse has a lot of people in it, and you will see cars continually circling. I mean, we've gone down and watched people circle 15, 20 times around the parking lot, waiting for someone from Treehouse to leave so that they could go in, and then we watch them go into Treehouse. Or they go and they park on the side streets, which we all know that they are not allowed to park on the side streets as part of a prior lawsuit back, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. That is prohibited, but they do it anyways. So, and I know that a lot of people think that if that live on Freeman or live at the other end of Town Neck from where we live, they think that you put this parking lot in and that will alleviate their parking problems. But in reality, I think as my wife said and as Irene said, people are going to start bypassing that. If there's gridlock, which there will be if that opens, people will come down Town Neck. They'll take a right on Dillingham. They could follow it all the way around, and they could come up on Freeman and then park on Freeman where they're not supposed to park. Or it won't be very long before people will realize that I don't have to go all the way down Dillingham and come up Freeman. I can cut down any one of these side roads. So all those people will also be affected, not just the people on Town Neck, but all of the people in the Town Neck neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
I just want to ask you a couple of questions.
Would you be willing to just state your name for the
Oh, yeah,
record?
Richard
first?
Pardo, 26 Town Neck Road. Traffic's going to be, traffic is a pain in the neck. My question is, just a regular type of guy, but who authorized, since Treehouse came on board, there's nothing but chaos. We've been to many of the meetings. I got the cops sitting in front of my house 3 or 4 times a week, pulling people over. We're making good revenue with them guys, let me tell you. And the traffic's gonna get worse. My wife's got medical problems. I pay my taxes, I buy my beach pass. I can't park down here. I drive her down here, I drop her off, I drive my vehicle back, I walk all the way down here, spend a couple hours, I walk back home, get the vehicle, go down and pick my wife up. Okay, because the Treehouse is utilizing that parking lot. Now, is this parking lot that Treehouse is putting in now, is that gonna alleviate some of the problems down there? Last summer, I went down there, there's spaces and there's vehicles backed up in the handicap, backed up on a 20-minute parking. What are they parking there for? What's going on? And the attendant said to me, well, we let them park there, and when a spot opens up, we go into Treehouse, grab them, so they'll move their vehicles in there. Really? But I can't find a place to park? Now I haven't asked them this year because I see cones in the certain spots. What are they there for? Okay? I don't understand what's going on. It's getting worse and worse and worse. It seems like, don't get me wrong, I'm not, it seems like you guys at the town's letting them do anything they want, even illegal stuff. It's been done since day one. You've been to plenty of meetings with them. You wouldn't believe what's said. The lies. They were gonna put us right where Global was. I called Global up, we get a good relationship with them now, and they put a stop to it. The lies that they were telling them. And you let this happen?
We let it happen?
Well, you know what I'm saying, the town. The town.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? The other thing too.
Your concern, the concern you're expressing has been concerned by everyone, especially.
But what has been done?
But it has nothing to do with what's before us tonight.
But I think it's gonna get worse with this parking lot coming in.
That's fine, I understand that.
See, I think the biggest letdown was, as I mentioned earlier, the Horizon Days. They weren't very successful restaurants. You had 15 or 20 cars going down there, and that was it. And then this big conglomerate moves in there. It's highly successful.
Oh, yeah.
The people are pouring in there. Nothing's changed. It's still a restaurant or a brewery now, I guess. But it's very popular, and that's where the problem is.
So with Horizon and the beach house and everything else,
Yeah.
they did have a restaurant there. They opened up noontime. They had a little snack place there. You know what I'm saying? So.
And they were okay. I mean, they didn't succeed.
Right.
The other thing to be aware of is that it's considered to be an agricultural use, a brewery, okay? And agricultural uses are afforded a great deal of leeway under the state law. So there isn't a lot that the town can do. Town can impose reasonable regulations and that sort of thing, but as an agricultural use, just like a religious use or an educational use, there are certain leeway that they get that preclude the town from doing certain things.
Now, how much beer has actually been brewed there? We don't.
I couldn't even tell you. We get a lot of, we get I've been working with Sam Jensen, this will be the 4th year. to put crosswalks in. Okay, we got one on Dillingham. There's a lady behind her, she's blind, she can never get across, she can see an eye dog.
Yeah.
She can never get across the street, you know? A couple of years ago, a lady come down Dillingham, baby carriage, her son over here, dog over here, stepped out into the street, and a car came right around the corner, didn't even want to stop, and he went right around her. You know, there was so many close calls. Bet's Bakery, you probably know about that, what happened to her mother. It's terrible. It's just concerned. But with the crosswalk, with the crosswalk being this, it's a good sign because people do stop, people do wait. You know? It's not like you go to number one before there's a crosswalk. We got some serious challenges. I'd like to work with you guys against you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
I wonder if I could, I know we're getting late into the evening.
If you could just come forward, state your name for us, please.
So my name is James Bennion. I'm an interested party. I'm an abutter of an abutter, and I live within 1,000 feet of the property that we're discussing. So I'm actually an engineer, amongst other things. I study capacity and congestion and flow. But I'm here today as a resident of Town Neck. So I think I mentioned I live at 5 Bodfish. I think why a lot of us are here is, for me, I'm here because initially there's a lot I didn't know. I mean, all of a sudden my neighbors started texting me pictures like, what's going on? And this was a month ago, and I was clueless. And I think, as were many people, so I'm sort of here to learn tonight a little bit more, but also to make some comments. There's just been an absence of, and I know this is more a frustration than a matter for appeals, but there's been an absence of opportunities for public input and for public learning. There's been an absence of community engagement by the proprietor to sort out what would have been sort of mutually the best we can come up with. And there's been the absence of some sort of impact assessment. And I'm not sure in the governance of the town where impact assessment falls, but it fell down. And so as best as I can figure, the issues seem to fall into 2 categories, procedural and impact. I wanted to just quickly not be redundant with things that have been said already. I submitted a memo, and I think it's been distributed, where I summarized the procedural issues about due process, zoning and variance and so on, and I summarized the impact issues. But I just wanted to highlight a few things in that memo that haven't been discussed, as well as to make some comments on some comments that have been made. One is this Treehouse's business, or is it the power company's? My understanding, I haven't looked recently, if one looks at the website of Treehouse, it says that they provide satellite parking and transportation to and through that. So as somebody referenced the news article, they're acknowledging what the use, whether it's been disclosed to the town and whether that's official or whatever, but they're acknowledging the use. I do have, by the way, this gentleman showed topo maps. I walked that area when the stakes sort of first went up in February, trying to figure. I first thought Seafood Sam's was trying to expand their parking lot because they did that recently. So I actually have photos of that entire topography before the trucks came in and filled. But I think that matter has been settled whether there's fill. At first I used MapQuest also, but I actually used a pedometer. The distance is 2,112 feet from Treehouse to the parking lot, regardless of who we think is using the parking lot. 7 times the maximum if a variance were required. And I don't understand how necessarily all of that works, but 7-fold time is significant. I do think somebody needs to trigger a traffic, not just a traffic flow study, but a safety study. We're talking about 150 cars emptying, whether they've been imbibing, if that's the use of this parking lot or not, onto Coast Guard Drive, which is an unsidewalked pedestrian road where youthful people like myself and elderly people, I actually think I'm getting elderly, are ambling all the time. And now we're talking about cars zooming in and out of there and then zooming down Bodfish and Dillingham. And there is a traffic impact. I don't know whose responsibility it was to do a traffic study, but somebody needs to do a traffic study. I mean, that is not at this body's level, but at the town level, there's a negligence issue there. And somebody needs to address that. Now, about my memo, procedural issues, you know, the zoning, the distance, the lack of public meetings, the Conservation Commission administrative review have all been sort of summarized. There's an additional, I think, Conservation Commission review issue because that land that was clear cut is habitat. And it is habitat for lots of woodland animals, amongst others, protected red fox. We all see the red fox in the neighborhood. So that's actually an issue. I don't know if that's
It has nothing to do with us.
It has nothing to do with you, but now it's
getting late, and we're hearing the same thing over and over again. Can
Yeah.
you please be concise, succinct, and
Gotcha. The lack of impacts is neighbors are worried about noise, pollution, lighting, traffic, and economic impact. I'm hearing the people who immediately abut pretty gloomy estimates of the loss of property value. Again, I don't know who is supposed to address these things, but they are concerns of the neighborhood. So my request would be that all of the input you've heard tonight that's been entered by the people who brought the case and the public be seriously considered by this esteemed group, that some impact studies be requested of the entities that are building this surface lot. And I just wanted to speak to the capacity issue. It is oversized. And like normally a building committee would go back and say, you don't need this size. I mean, we're talking about 150 cars for a facility that can only have 200 to 300 people in it. So it's oversized by at least 50 spots, maybe it's double oversized. There's no buffer zones between this now commercial lot and our residential spaces immediately into people's houses, the traffic lights. So I don't know what you do with all that. You guys are like the Board of Appeals and zoning experts. I'm just an engineer and a very concerned resident and pointing out what I believe are impact issues and procedural issues.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I have a question for our town council who is put to sleep over here. So my question is, if any type of compensation is exchanged between the owners of this lot and anyone who uses it, doesn't that constitute a commercial use?
Arguably, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But if the corporation that owns the lot is leasing it to an entity, if it's Treehouse, and Treehouse chooses to charge people, that's where it becomes commercial, not just paying for a lease. Because the owner is leasing it to an entity. If they're not charging fees for parking in there, does it apply to the people they lease it to? Is that what makes it commercial?
I think the commercial aspect is the exchange of funds between party using the property and the operator of the site.
Gotcha.
And that would get you into the other retail business and service technically. That would require a special permit.
Mr. Chairman, may I say one thing? Very short.
Sure.
I expect that you're intending to close this hearing and deliberate. May I ask that we be allowed to submit the commercial lease after close of the hearing so that you can at least review it? Because our position is.
You have to keep the hearing open to take any submissions.
That's all. Really, because it apparently is in the town's files.
If you would like to submit that, we can continue the hearing.
So, but that was the one, because I believe that, as I started out, that the problem is it's a principal use as a commercial lot, and I think this proves it. You know, the extent keeping it open just to allow that one submission, I don't think, we don't want to rehear any more of this. I don't think. Maybe you can ask us a question. That's up to you.
I think we have enough information, or do we feel prepared to close? I think
You close, you don't want to wait for a copy of that lease.
If someone have the lease, can we submit it before we close?
No. Yes, you consider.
We can email it quickly.
Hearing is closed.
That's what I'm saying.
One of these gentlemen, I think, has.
I mean, if it's sent to us, I'm not sure we'll have access to it.
Actually does have it.
I'll just have to request it.
I mean, it's been technically submitted to the town, I guess.
Well, the thing is, if it's in the town, we're not gonna have it this evening. So we can close the hearing and deliberate after we get it, or we can leave the hearing open and take the submission at the next hearing and close it. What's the board's pleasure?
I'd continue my vote would be you.
Well, through you, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I think a continuance makes sense procedurally, just to allow you to accept and review that document. Because technically, once the hearing's closed, you're not supposed to be accepting new public information, so.
Okay. Is there a motion to
Is
continue?
that acceptable to the applicant?
Yes. Oh, I do think, I think you're going to want to consult with your town council at some point for this too. So, as I said, I don't expect you're going to decide tonight. That's all. So, yes, we would like a continuance.
Okay. Next meeting again, I would assume we'd reach the 25th
Yes.
of August for our, okay. Is that an adequate amount of time?
2 weeks?
Okay.
I'll move we continue the application 2623 until August 25th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Howard, thank you. The other, no deliberations tonight. Any further board discussion?
Nope, not tonight.
They're not done.
The cease and desist was updated and reissued to give a deadline of September 1st in order for them to restore all the vegetation and the trees that were cleared out. Or to
Excuse us, guys, we're not quite done yet. If you could just, if you want to have conversation outside, that'd be great. Thank you.
or to seek a modification through the board, or to appeal the.
We're still in our meeting. You're done.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's like a PhD defense, we leave.
Sorry, we're trying to. They're supposed to file with us by September 1st. And then there's two properties that were clear cut. So 76 was part of the comprehensive permit. 78 was not part of the comprehensive permit land. They are required to administrative site plan review with us for that purpose because there was a zoning bylaw violation for that section of land.
Sense of how this happened? I mean, was this just a huge oversight on their part? Or?
I think it's, I don't know how to phrase this, debatable as to what occurred. The purpose and intent of it is still not clear.
Okay, I'll take that.
Although we've had conversations 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Their deadline for a hearing with us is the 1st of September.
They were ordered to create a plan by September 1st. So they're either going to have to file for insubstantial, substantial modification with you by September 1st, or come up with a restoration plan and submit that to Ian by September 1st, or appeal his decision within 30 days.
Okay, gotcha.
So have we stopped?
They have stopped, yes.
There every day, 4 times.
I mean, they ignored your cease and desist.
Wait for the hearing to go.
Okay, any other matters not reasonably anticipated?
By you?
Certainly not by me, Jim.
I have a motion to adjourn on my part.
Second.
I had a second on that one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just what?
Do you want
Mr. Nichols?
Here, is that easiest?
Yeah, we leave that in there, so we can stamp all that in.
So I don't have to sign anything tomorrow, right, Maureen?
Nothing to sign.
Ireland too.
I'm heading off to the Super Sheet.